Many cavers believe the cave is eternal, enduring age after age. But the breakdown you see today is not the same breakdown you see tomorrow or next year. Artificial intelligence, AI, explains how this surprising reality takes place. Here is my subjective and objective evidence. 1. Caves I have visited several times over a span of years seem different to me. Have I forgotten what I saw in the past? Or has the cave really changed? The cave has really changed, and my memory is as good as the next caver. 2. A few times I have been stopped by a breakdown. Try as I may, I have not found my way through the breakdown, through the rocks. And some other caver at a later time finds a way through the breakdown and finds a wonderful passage extending onward. Was it just that I was not as thorough a caver the first time I explored the breakdown? No, the breakdown had changed. So much for the subjective evidence. Here is my subjective and objective evidence. 3. Cave Research Foundation teams have resurveyed many passages in Mammoth Cave, and they tell you they resurvey to improve accuracy. But the fact is, no resurveys have identical lengths of the original survey. This is because the caves changed. It was not until I became a proficient AI expert that I understood exactly what was happening. I read the Wikipedia article on AI several times until I fully understood how artificial intelligence works on caves and how this new and powerful process unlocks the cave changing problems. AI has been described as machine learning. It has been a boon for understanding the intricacy and behavior of neural networks. Neural networks are organic, but caves are inorganic. Nevertheless, caves have patterns. Neuron interactions involve amino acids, which are proteins that can fold and refold in billions of ways and combinations. The equivalent for rocks is made up of grains, particles, fibers, granules, and curlicues that combine, and since caves are formed in rocks, AI is appropriate to understand exactly how caves change. For example, in Mammoth Cave, one finds junctions, canyons, tubes, shafts, breakdowns, fills, speleothems, and speleogems, to name a few of the many configurations available. The 426-mile length of Mammoth Cave is 2,249,280 feet. And since the average survey shot in Mammoth Cave is 31.51 feet, calculated from 71,383 survey shots in the total survey database, it follows that the combinatorial matrix of variables approaches infinity. In the deep learning mode, the propagation function reduces the feed-forward recurrent network. Applying a Markov chain analysis, we may calculate the adaptive learning rate, creating a stochastic cerebellar model that may be weighed since all of the cave is underground. The vanishing gradient problem is subsumed by the generative adversarial network. Unfortunately, that network lacks robustness, so we apply the Jacobi method to account for the multi-timelessness. In other words, breakdowns change on a shorter timeline than passage cross-sections change or junctions, but it all changes. I have developed the rubric coefficient to calculate from the Jacobi triple product to duplicate the exact differential requirements from observed cave features. This mean square validity of time differential method lets us create a table of change values for the entire cave matrix. You may say, Ergo, what practical use is this rubric speleo AI process? If you think deeply about it, it will serve you well on every cave trip. For instance, if you tell some young caver that the crawlway is an interminable belly crawl, and she replies, well, it surveys to be 132.6 feet long, you have an immediate scientific explanation. It used to be far longer than that. After all, caves change through time. This is not only true, but it's factual that cavers change through time. I once wrote a book that a vertical shaft in a specific cave measured 240 feet from top to bottom. Years later, cavers trying to embarrass me in a large meeting by saying that I failed to account for the 50 feet below the drain. At the time, I felt contradicted, belittled, and humiliated. Knowing what I know now, I can say authoritatively, yes, that's right, I measured the drain before it was open to the last 50 feet. Lechagila Cave in New Mexico has chandelier crystals some 2 feet long. I described these to a caver who said, I've been to Lech, and those crystals are 3 to 5 feet long. I was able to say that I was talking about their size 10,000 years ago. And of course, they're much longer now.
20 feet.
A few days ago, some new cavers asked me to show them the way to Indian Cave. We drove to the site, donned our gear, and trudged down the path. Indian Cave, as I remembered it, was about 325 feet long. After 2 hours, it was certain that the cave was almost a mile in length. I naturally explained to the youngsters that caves do change over time. They immediately suggested that we change the name to Native American Cave. It would be more politically correct. Renaming that cave subjected changed the subject away from my faulty recollection to my cultural insensitivity. When I got home, I looked at the topographic map and discovered that Indian Cave was located in the next valley over.
Roger. Good. I like the way you think. And I think that's why we get along. We think similarly. Let's go back in this story where you talked about how caves change.
Yes.
Going back to the story of old about the Jews in the cave,
Yes.
when we first, meaning Peter Lane Taylor and I first approached National Geographic Adventure, they said, you know, before we even agree to publish one word of this somewhat fantastic story you're telling us, we're going to send you guys back to get physical proof that this story took place the way you're saying it did.
Oh, yeah.
So, in the end, on a 2003 expedition, Peter Lane Taylor and I were led into a room in a remote part of the cave, and there's dozens of names on the wall,
Yeah.
mostly in Cyrillic, Russian and Ukrainian. But in
Temporary names.
one corner, there's names in English, okay, the names of the Jewish survivors. But it also says 1943, and over the 4 and 3 are white smudges, evidence of a natural process that takes 60 to 70 years to occur in that cave, where the minerals leach out and cover the surface. That was our physical evidence that whoever wrote that wrote it during the Second World War.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
The other thing about caves change and they look different. When I took the survivors through the cave, meaning 71-year-old,
Right.
76-year-old, 81 and 91, they kept saying, Chris, I know this is the same cave. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like the same cave. You know, they kept saying that. Well, anyway, we were there for 3 weeks. We had a film crew at one point of 42 people. The idea was the survivors, given their ages and their ailments, film them and get them out as soon as possible.
Sure.
So it took 5 days. We filmed them. They were gone. The film crew starts getting lesser and lesser in number. And the last day, there's 6 of us. And I'm in pre-Scotto cave. It's 1 o'clock. And I said to the other 5, you know, I need a break. I'm going up to the surface. I'll meet you on the surface. So I get up to the surface and I lay down, beautiful sunny day. And then for the first time that trip, I've been there for 3 weeks, I hear what I always heard every other trip for 19 years that I took on the surface. I hear the wind rustling through the trees and I hear dogs barking. I didn't hear that the entire trip.
Right.
Now, there's a theory in particle physics called the Heisenberg uncertainty theory.
Yes.
And it says the more you accurately strive to measure something, the more you change the accuracy of what you're measuring. The key tenet of any good documentary is you capture that spontaneous lifetime utterance. Because you don't capture it, it's gone. Now picture this. Now I'm on the surface and I hear the trees rustling in the wind.
Yeah.
I hear the dogs. We don't have the film crew. We don't have the generators. We don't have the latrines that were built. We don't have 30 other people. It's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in real life.
Yeah.
Okay? The more you actually try to measure something, the more you change.
Yeah.
So we're feeling it differently now. So it shows how the equations, you know, on a macroscopic world can work on a microscopic and vice versa.
Right.